What's up, everybody? I'm back. Long time no see indeed. How Jobu Jian. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It is Wednesday, June 14th. It is now 11:06 a.m. here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And once again, the temperature is unseasonably cool. Unseasonably cool. You can say the temperature is unseasonably cool or unseasonably warm or hot. And that means that the temperature is not normal for that time of the year. Hello, Fanny. Hello, Ricardo. I'm pretty good. I feel like I finally woke up. Now I feel like I'm awake. I felt really tired on my last live stream. It's like I was trying to wake up my brain, but I feel pretty awake now. I'm pretty good, Flora. Thank you. Hello, Mark. Good name. All right. Well, welcome to my second live stream, everybody. This one is called A Friend in Every Corner. And on this live stream, I just like to talk to people and try to make friends. And I will try to help you with your English problems if you have problems or questions with English. All right. So my last live stream, I didn't talk to anyone because I was answering so many questions. But on this live stream, I prefer to try to get people on the stage more. So if you want to raise your hand and come talk to me, then you should do that. I am recording. Thank you, Adam. Thank you once again, my friend. How can others distinguish you from me? Well, Mark, I'm pretty sure we don't look exactly the same. Mark, there are millions of Marks. There are millions of us. Okay? It's a common name. Okay? 这是很普通的名字。很多人有。所以 it's no issue. It's no problem. 没问题啊。Okay? Sometimes they'll say your last name also. So if there's more than one Mark in the class, then maybe they'll say Mark Sampson or Mark S. Okay? Mark can also be a location or a small mark on the page, a small amount of ink on a page. It's called a mark. So if you put a dot on your page, that's a mark. Yes, I am a unique mark. Yes, I can speak Chinese. That's right. The word marker is a device for making marks. That's what a marker is. So let's see. Would anyone like to raise their hand and come talk to me? Is there a word in English when both people have the same name? I don't think so. Let's see. Let me find something here. Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah. Juan Carlos, there is a word, but it's not a word that's really it's not used very often. You can say, my namesake. My namesake means someone with my same name. Okay? But like I said, it's not really used very often anymore. Okay? It's kind of formal. It's somewhat formal. So it's a little weird. Okay? There is another word that's kind of fun to use. It doesn't mean a person with the same name, but it means a person who looks just like you. Okay? So if you see another person who looks just like you, that is your doppelganger. I love this word. It's a German word originally. Doppelganger. Doppelganger. Which doppelganger is German, and the original meaning, doppel means double. So doppel means double, and ganger means to go, or yeah. So a double goer. A doppelganger means a person who looks just like you. Yeah. It's originally a German word. So maybe you might see somebody who's your American doppelganger or your Chinese doppelganger. It means like they look just like you, but they're Chinese, or they're wherever, right? Very similar to you, but from a different place. So, yeah, doppelganger. Good fun word to learn. All right, who wants to talk to me? Nobody wants to talk to me. Well, I'm so sad. Yes, Carlos, Juan Carlos, we also say my evil twin. You must be my evil twin. Yeah, we just make that joke sometimes. Yeah. Like your double. That's right. Yeah, you could also say my double. I saw my double today. Yeah, my twin. Duplicate? Yeah, you could say that too, sure. Harley can't stand this word. Harley, where are you from? Is that Indonesia or is that Poland? I always get them confused, which one's which. Oh, let's see. Angie has a question. She said, which method is useful to practice English when you don't have anyone to talk with? Well, Angie, there are some things you can do. First, Angie, the most important part of learning any language is learning how to think in that language. And that's the one thing that many, 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 many people don't do. So, the most effective way to practice English if there's no one around to talk with is just use English in your mind for anything you're doing. If you're going to the store, use English. If you're going to the park, use English. If you're watching TV, use English. Okay? But then there are 4 ways that you can practice speaking. Okay? 1, sure, you should try to find a native speaker. Okay? So if you can find a native speaker, find one. All right? If you live in a big city, there are native speakers there, but you have to go find them. It's actually very easy. Excuse me. You just need to go find the food. Okay? If you find the food, you find the foreigner. All right? So go find the Western food and you'll find some foreigners. You can buy him an appetizer, buy him some French fries or a drink, and he will or she will talk with you and practice English. So that's number 1, native speaker. Try to find a native speaker. Number 2, find a non-native speaker like you. There are many people like you who want to practice their English. Okay? But you won't practice with them because their English is not perfect like a native speaker. Well, that's your problem. Okay? So if you tell me, well, I don't want to practice with them because maybe their grammar is not as good as mine. Maybe their vocabulary is not very good. Maybe their pronunciation is not very good. Well, here's what I will tell you. Maybe their grammar is better than yours. Maybe their vocabulary is better than yours. Maybe their pronunciation is better than yours. So, stop looking for perfect and ignoring good. Good is sitting right there. You can use good. Okay, so you're looking for perfect. You're looking for only perfect, and if you find perfect, then that's great. But if you can't find perfect, you're doing nothing. That's not good. Go find a non-native speaker and practice with them. All right? That's still good practice. Then here's the third way. Okay, so number 1, native speaker. Number 2, non-native speaker. Number 3, this is the big one. Find someone you can teach and teach what you know. The fastest way to learn is to teach. Because when you teach someone else, you have to explain what you know. And that is the best kind of practice you can do. So if you get 1 student, that's good. If you get 2, that's great. If you get 5 students, you will learn incredibly fast. You will progress very, very fast because who learns more, the student or the teacher? Who learns more? Who learns more, the student or the teacher? Not the student, Shizuka. No, the teacher learns more. Do you know why? Because if you're a student, then you have one mind. So you can only think of the questions that your mind can think of. But when you're a teacher, you have 10 minds or 20 minds, and they are all asking you questions. So now you have 20 minds asking you questions that you have to answer. So you will learn much faster. Okay? So step 1, native speaker. Step 2, non-native speaker. Step 3, find someone you can teach. Teach your daughter, teach your son, teach your mom or dad, teach your grandma or your grandpa, teach your boss, teach your coworker, teach your friend, teach the guy on the bus next to you. Doesn't matter. Okay? And finally, step 4. If you can't find a native speaker, and you can't find a non-native speaker, and you can't find someone to teach, then yes, I want you to talk to yourself. I want you to talk to the wall, talk to the mirror, talk to the TV, talk to your dog. My dog understands Chinese. Talk to Siri, talk to ChatGPT. Yeah, whatever. Okay? So here's what you want to do. Do you guys know what is chess? What is chess? Do you know the game chess? Right. So chess, C-H-E-S-S. Chess is a very popular game. It's a very old game. And the masters of chess, the masters, how do they practice if there's no one to practice with? With themselves. That's exactly right. The masters practice by themselves if there's no one to practice with, because they know they have to practice. So that's why I give you four levels of practicing, okay? Native speaker, non-native speaker, teach someone, or talk to yourself. And really, it's 5 levels, because the first one I told you is learn how to think in English. If you learn how to think in English, you're practicing English all the time. Okay? So there's your answer. Ah, Poland. Yes. Okay. So that's why you don't like the word doppelganger. Now that makes more sense. Yeah. I'm sorry, Harley. It's only because the Polish flag and the, the Polish flag and the Indonesian flag, they look the same on Hello Talk, because all I can see is red and white. And if it's, I don't remember which one is red on top and white on the bottom, and which one is white on top and red on the bottom. My apologies. I'm sorry. I'm not a flag expert. I'm pretty close, though. I know most flags really well. Hannah says, that's the most important thing. Think in English. Forget your mother tongue. I don't want you to forget your mother tongue, Hannah, but I want you to learn how to change a switch on your brain to switch languages. Okay, so if you are speaking English, then think in English. If you are speaking Chinese, then think in Chinese. Okay? Thank you, Osama. And that's exactly right, Harley. Native speakers don't have perfect grammar either. That's exactly right. Good for you. Mark says, I have poor English. How can I teach others? Mark, You don't have to know everything to teach someone something. Okay? And Mark, that's why I tell everybody, teachers are not gods. Teachers are guides. So, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know more than they do. Okay? So, Mark, if you're teaching someone else something, and maybe you teach them something a little bit wrong, that's okay. I'm sorry, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. No one is going to die if you didn't teach them the way to use a period properly. They will figure it out in time. But you tried to help them by teaching them something that you know. So, should you not teach anyone anything you know unless you know it perfectly? That's ridiculous. If you know something, teach someone. And here's what will really happen. When you teach other people what you know, even if it's just a little bit, what you know will get better and better. So by teaching other people, you will learn more and become better. Okay? Carlsum says, but what if I teach science, but in English? It will help? Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Your dog is smarter than me. Albert, no, come on. That's funny. You are welcome, everyone. And Kalsum says, say good things to yourself, because if you say I'm not learning, then you're manifesting that. That's correct. Yeah, be positive. Yeah. That's called positive visualization or creative visualization. If you learn English in this way, I'm afraid I can't speak my mother tongue anymore. No. No. Mark, no. You can learn many languages and you can think in many languages. Your brain is a lot more powerful than you think it is. Could I talk about how to improve listening skills for the IELTS test? Lily... yeah, really quickly, let me just explain one very important part of taking the IELTS test is everything in the IELTS test is timed, right? You have a time limit, and that's what makes it hard. So my suggestion to you is to remember that the time limit is the hard thing. If you don't have a time limit, then you probably can write really well, with no problem, or speak really well with no problem. You need more time to think, right? So you need to practice everything you practice under a time limit. That's one reason why I love cooking, because when you cook, everything you do is under a time limit. You have to be aware of your time. How long has that thing been cooking? If you wait too long, then it burns and you failed, like a test. So cooking is a good practice to teach your mind to be aware of timing in tests. Okay? Will I upload regular videos to my YouTube channel? Yes, Osama, I did upload a couple of them. I think there's one uploading right now, too. But I have to re-upload them Osama, I'm still learning how to do all this video editing and uploading and all this. And these videos are really big. They're really large size videos, like 25, 35 gigabytes. And uploading them is difficult. Editing them is difficult. And I'm still trying to figure it out. But yes, I'm in the process of uploading more videos. Sergi said, I changed my phone's operating system language to English. Good for you. That's a good way to force yourself to practice your English that way. Yeah. Hannah did too. Good for you. Corpse. Adam, the word corpse means a dead body. A dead person is a corpse. Well, a dead body is a corpse. Human body. We use that term for humans. I don't think we use that for animals. Zombie is what we call an undead person. Means that they were dead, but they came back to life, and now they're walking around like this. That's a zombie. Like in The Walking Dead, the TV show, The Walking Dead, those are zombies. Mahdi, I am from the state of Ohio. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Hannah says, I can understand 95% of what you say, but I can't talk like you do. How do you speak more like native speakers? Hannah, 熟能生巧，你需要很多的练习. That's all. You just need more practice. You just need more practice. That's it. Okay? And remember what I said. You can practice English all day if you learn how to think in English. But if you are speaking English, but you are thinking in your native language, then you're not really speaking English. Okay? Mark, I think I can figure it out, but thank you for the offer of help. Kalsum says, I can speak English, but while I'm thinking about grammar, I have a struggle. So, Kalsum, that means that you should not think about grammar that much. Don't worry about it. Kalsum, if you're taking a test, grammar is important. If you're at school, grammar is important. If you're at work, grammar is important. But if you're not at school, you're not at work, and you're not taking a test, who cares? It's not that important. So that means I don't want you to worry about it. Because if you're worried about it, then you don't speak. If you don't speak, you don't make progress. So stop worrying about it. Speak more. Make more mistakes. Make more progress. Did you hear me, everyone? Make more mistakes means making more progress. If you're afraid to make mistakes, then I can promise you, you are not making progress. Can I tell you an easy joke? I don't know, man. Yes, I'm native. I can't think of any jokes right now. I don't have anything prepared. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jessica. How can I think in English, Sam says. Okay, good, Sam. I've been working on that chapter of my book recently. Sam, to begin thinking in English, I want you to just try to answer all of the W questions all day long. So, Sam, if you are at the grocery store, I want you to look around the grocery store, and in your mind, I want you to answer the questions who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay? So, look around the grocery store and say, who is here? Oh, I see there's many people here. Are there many people or few people? Are they local people or tourists? Are they young people or old people? Who is here? Then ask what. What do you see? What are they doing? What do they have? Then ask when. When are we here? Is it morning? Is it afternoon? Is it evening? When do you need to be home? When do you need to leave? When do you need to whatever? Okay? The point is, the first way to begin learning how to think in English is just try to answer simple questions like who, what, when, where, why, and how. All day. Just walk around. When you're at the park, who, what, when, where, why, how. When you're at work, who, what, when, where, why, how. When you're watching TV, who, what, when, where, why, how. Okay, that's level one. That's level one of how to begin thinking in English. Okay, level two is that you need to write a list of topics like family. How well can you talk about family in your mind? How well can you think about family? How well can you think about work? How well can you think about your past, your present, your future? How well can you think about your clothes, your food? How well can you think about your hobbies? And then level 3 is the highest level of thinking. How well can you think about abstract things like psychology or philosophy or religion or politics? Okay, so level 1, who, what, when, where, why, how. Level 2, topics, by subject. Level 3 is what we'll call, I forgot the word I was going to use for it. Abstract, like psychological or emotional or aesthetic or, yeah. Okay, so it's 3 levels of thinking. Hello, Anna. Okay, Sam, I hope that helps you get started. Thank you, Angela. That's right, Osama. If you make more mistakes, you make more progress. Osama, you need to think about life like a scientist does, okay? When a scientist does experiments in the laboratory, sometimes the experiments are successful and you get good data, right? You write down all the information that you learned from the successful experiment. But sometimes your experiments fail, and actually they fail more often. But when your experiment fails, you still get good data and you learn from that. So, in life, the more mistakes you make, the more progress you make, because you're doing more experiments. Okay? But if you're afraid to experiment, then you won't get any new data. So you won't learn anything or grow. All right? So life is an experiment, and oftentimes experiments fail. But even when experiments fail, you can still learn something. Okay? Yes, I play the drums, Mohammed. Thank you, Mark. Mark Radio. You're welcome, Sam. Please say my name. Is it Sudeba? Sudeba Hideri? Hello, Sudeba. Salam. Hannah plays the drums too. Rock on, Hannah. All right. Well, does anyone want to finally come talk with me? All right. Look, we finally have a few people who want to talk to me. Okay. Let's talk to, I'll start with Kalsum. And Maria, I see you. And Faisal, I see you too. If you guys can wait a few minutes. Hello, Kalsum.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good. And I see your flag says you're in Canada and your languages said you're Kurdish.
Yes.
Okay. So you're in Canada where? In what part?
Now, actually, I come back to Kurdistan.
Oh,
Not
oh.
in there.
Oh, okay.
To go there.
Okay. So you were in Canada before?
Yeah, Vancouver.
In Vancouver. Oh, I've never been there, but I've always wanted to go.
Lives in there.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. Yeah. You know, Vancouver is an interesting city because the largest number of Asians outside of Asia are in Vancouver. So if you want good Chinese food, you can get good Chinese food in Vancouver. You know? Yeah. So, Kalsum, did you have a question for me or something I can help you with today?
Now, I took a course, English course, because now I work in the private school.
Okay.
Next month. So I just struggle while I think in grammar, think about grammar. If I don't think about grammar, I can't speak.
Right. So there's your answer. Don't think about grammar. I don't think about grammar either. Kalsum, grammar is supposed to be like when you walk. When you walk, you don't think about each muscle that you use. You just walk, right? We've just learned how to use them. Grammar is supposed to be like that. And it doesn't happen quickly that way, right? So especially advanced grammar, you know, it can be tricky. But I just want to make sure everyone remembers that language is not about taking a test. Language is not about taking tests. So I know that many people here, you want to take the IELTS or the TOEFL or whatever, right? That's important. But you still need to remember that language is supposed to be about communication. So try to keep those things separated. You know, your goals for taking the IELTS test or the TOEFL test, those are important, but try to keep those separated from your idea of just learning the language, because learning the language is not about the grammar, it's about expression.
But what about IELTS?
Okay, right. So you've taken it 5 times?
No,
Oh.
And I got 5.
You got a 5. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, the IELTS is hard. All right. It is hard. The truth is, Kalsum, is that most Americans, if they took that test, they wouldn't do well.
It's about grammar or English. It is, in other hands, about your mental, how you fast. Really, because it's related on the how you fast, how you think it, how you things directly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. That's why I try to teach people techniques like that. So that's why earlier I was talking about cooking, why I really enjoy cooking, because I think when I was younger, every time I would take a test and there was a time limit, the time limit made me nervous and I couldn't do well. But when I learned how to cook and I got good at cooking, and you learn about the rhythm of timing, knowing that, okay, I have 15 minutes to do this and I have 5 minutes to do this. If you get comfortable with that idea of understanding what you need to do and how much time you have to do it, taking tests becomes easier, okay? But also, being a teacher helped, because when you're a teacher, being a teacher is all about breaking something down and understanding how to give it to someone else, right? So when I see a question, I break it down in my mind, in the ways my mind immediately tries to organize the information, right? And yeah, that takes practice too.
I used to be a science teacher in the private school, and I teach science but in English. But for the primary school, so for grade 1 and 2 and 3. And also the vocabs it's limited, not a lot, so don't require a lot of explanation.
Right.
I know kids need explanation, so it is really helpful to improve English. But
yes, that's true. But again, always remember what Albert Einstein said. Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, then maybe you don't really understand. So, that's an important thing to remember. And that's why teaching young kids is such a good experience, because young kids only understand simple language. So if you can learn how to communicate with children well, then you can communicate with anyone well. Because if you can get them to understand, you can get anyone to understand. Okay? Not that they're stupid, but just that they have a limited knowledge of vocabulary. So you have to find creative ways to explain something to them that don't use complicated language. But kids are really smart. You just have to be creative and find unique ways to make them go, oh, I understand that. Compare it to something in their video game, and now they'll go, oh, yeah, I understand that, right?
them practically, like last year I teach them push and pull, force, how force work, and give them their bags, and on the center of the class, I said, "Yalla, push the bag."
Yeah, very good. Yeah, see, that's good. That's fun, right? That's the funny thing about being a teacher is there is there's an entertainment component in teaching, right? If you're not entertaining, no, it's not so much entertaining, it's passion, right? If you're not passionate, they will see it and they will be bored. Right? And if you are not passionate, then why should they be passionate? Right? That's what I always remember thinking when I was a kid. He doesn't love this. Why should I love it? He doesn't love it. He's bored out of his mind teaching me. So of course I'm bored. He's bored. Right? But that's what made me realize that passion is such an important part of being a teacher, because passion, you can't fake that. You cannot fake passion. That's something that even a 3-year-old can see real passion and recognize it for what it is. It's natural. There's something about it that we see. When we see someone that truly loves something and truly has an interest for it, we recognize that. And then it's infectious. So if you are passionate, they will want to be passionate. If you are interested, they will want to be interested. Yeah. So, no, but that's what you did was really, really great by doing trying to use real things like push and pull. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kalsum. You speak for a minute.
Because if I don't do that, they worry, because science is fun. So, and bring some animals for them and show them.
Right.
And how.
Right. Right. And Kalsum, one of the things about education today that they've forgotten is that the most effective form of education is play. Play. So when I was a boy, I was in my woods a lot playing. But what did I learn? I learned botany, I learned biology, I learned nature skills and conservation, I learned paleontology because we have fossils everywhere, I learned about history and natural history and prehistory. I learned so many things just by running around as a kid. And now I can explain those things to you. And I can remember as a boy finding that rock for the first time and learning what it was, right? So I always like to tell about the story about Finland. The schools in Finland, they had the lowest test scores in the world. They had, or not the lowest in the world, but very low test scores, okay? And they decided to completely change their educational system, and they changed it to a play method. And so their kids go out and just play, and then when they're done playing, they come back in and talk about their playing. So if they went out and played and they climbed a tree, then they'll say, okay, what kind of tree was it? Oh, it's a maple tree. Well, let's look up the maple tree and find out what's the genus and the species of this tree. Oh, and we can learn about chlorophyll and, how the sunlight works with the plants and whatnot. And then if you climb the tree and maybe you fell out, well, why did you fall? Oh, gravity. Let's talk about gravity for a minute, So you're using their play experience.
Yeah, of course. I was teaching them how to plant it. For example, flower or something. I led them to a line up and go to the backyard and garden and led them to plant it themselves. And I helped them and watering plant and tell them you are also drawing a flower and the parts of the flower and show them each part.
Yeah.
For example, the flower, this is the leaf, this is the... Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Again, that's one of the only problems with education today is, unfortunately, all around the world, many people have forgotten that education needs to be practical, that education needs to be useful, and it always needs to be paired with something that you see in the real world. So I hated math classes. I hated every math class I ever took because not one math class I ever took was practical. They never showed you practical ways how this stuff could be used. They just gave you tests and exercises and tests and exercises and tests and exercises. No. If you're telling me math is important, then show me. Prove it. Prove it. Yeah, come on. Because the truth is, I've been going through my life for a long time and I haven't used any of that math. So I was right that, look, for many, many, many people, a lot of that math isn't very useful. However, they could have taken the time. For example, I'm a drummer. Do you know how much physics is involved in drumming? A lot. Angle of impact and force dissipation and lots of things go into drumming that are physics involved, right? Understanding how to use force and velocity and, all of those things. If someone had explained that to me when I was 15, hey, guess what? You like drums, right? Well, guess what? If you learn about physics, you can be a better drummer. Now I'm interested, right? So, no, but it sounds like you're doing all the right things, Kausum.
I work in laboratory. I have two kinds of job, different.
Oh, that's great.
Also lab assistant.
Okay.
Because I graduated from chemistry department. So I can teach science and also work in laboratory.
That's good. And that's really important. Another thing that I talk about on my live streams a lot is being versatile. Because you what? What was you have 3 jobs?
Working. No, 2.
Oh, okay.
13 hours a day work.
Oh, wow. That's too much. That's too much. But Kausum, when people ask me, what is your job? I tell them my job is being me. And the reason I say that is because it's very weird when people say, I'm a doctor or I'm a lawyer. That's strange. No. You're a human being, and that means that you are capable of doing many things. So I always like to remember that Leonardo da Vinci, what was his job? Was he a painter, or was he an inventor, or was he a musician, or was he a doctor, or was he did anything that he thought he could do? Me too. I do anything that I think I can do. So I was a drummer. I am a drummer, but I'm also a teacher, but I'm also a cook. And actually, all of these things help each other, right? So the things I know from cooking, I told you, cooking helps me teach you about timing and organizational skills and mental organizing, right? Music, I would say about 85% of my ideas about language learning come from music. Almost all of them. So if you hear an idea from me that you've never heard before, it's because I'm a drummer. So that's why it's interesting when you do more than one job. Those things are you'll find ways to use the skill from one to help you with another.
Yeah, of course. I just struggle while I think about grammar. This is my problem. But if I don't think about grammar, I can't speak. It's okay.
Well, you're doing just fine if you ask me. And, remember what I said. You're a scientist, so you should understand this. Yeah. When you do science, there are some experiments that are successful and some that fail, but you get good data from either. Right? So that's what's important, right? And the more you do experiments, the more data you get, then the more likely you can make good conclusions from that data, right? But if you never do any experiments, then you can't make any conclusions really from that data, right? So that's why I keep telling people you have to practice speaking, even if you speak badly, because that's still an experiment.
Yeah, I have a chance. Just some minutes before you said you have 5 ways to improve your English. If you have a native speaker friends, you can practice with them and talk with them daily.
Right.
Or otherwise talk with yourself or
right.
sing in English. And also I have a chance to teach pupils.
Right. Yeah. Teaching people. You don't understand that. So many people come on my streams and they all want some secret. They want me to give them the secret. Like, how can I learn English tomorrow? Ooh, boom, here's my magic wand. Here, like I can make you learn English. But there is no secret. There is no secret. There's only hard work. But if I was going to give you one secret to learn anything faster, that would be what I would say. Teach. So whatever you're going to learn something, go read something. And then when you read that thing and now you know it, find somebody and go teach them that thing. Yeah, that's right. And just keep doing that, right? So the best thing that I did, Kalsum, was I started teaching when I was 18. I started teaching music, teaching drums. And and the first year I did it, I remember I panicked because they were asking me questions and I didn't know the answers. And I felt like, what am I doing? I can't do this. I don't know everything. And I remember I was on a break and I called my teacher and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, I'm going to be a teacher and I can't do this. And he said, Mark, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know more than they do. Or actually, I think he said, you don't have to know everything. You just have to be one step ahead of them. And that's what I remembered from that point on. And that's why I tell everybody now that it's important to remember that teachers are not gods. Teachers are guides. They're just here to guide you. But that means that learning is your job. Some people think that the teacher is there to teach you. No. The teacher is there to guide you. It's your job to learn. Nobody's going to force you to do it. You have to do it, but it's your responsibility. Yeah.
What about song? If we listening to the song and memorize the sentences and
so songs can be useful for motivation because songs are fun, right? But there's a problem with learning English from songs, because when people write songs, there are no grammar rules. It's more like poetry. You can do anything you want to. So you need to remember that. If you're learning songs, that's fun, but the grammar might be incorrect, or they might be using local language or slang language that's not proper, right? So yeah, learning English from songs is fun, and it's a good motivator to keep you learning. But you just need to remember that nobody follows grammar rules when they're writing songs. They just write whatever they think and whatever they feel.
One thing I want to tell you, while I start to reading a books, I start with the hard book. It's not my level. And while I reading, some words I don't know, and just stop it and translate it to my language. And it's make me worried, really.
Right.
Because I stop it. Stop.
Yeah. No, can't do that. Yeah. So, Kalsum, there's we have a few ways of looking at this. One way is, when I was younger, I remember hearing this phrase, and I always liked this phrase: every book is a children's book if that child can read. And what that means is, let's not discourage a child from opening a difficult book. If he wants to open a difficult book and try to read it, let him try. What's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, he's confused. She's confused. Who cares? Let him be confused, right? So that's one way to look at it. But like you said, if you're trying to do something that's too beyond you, then you're going to get too frustrated and you're going to quit. Right? So that's why when you're reading, you need to find books that are the right level for your reading. All right? How can you know what the right level is? In my opinion, the right level for you is a book where it's about no more than 10 to 20 new words per page. So if there are more than 20 new words on one page, that book is way too hard for you and you're not going to be able to get through it. But if there are about 10 or 15, it's going to be difficult but doable. Okay? And then what you do is, as you're reading the book, when you see a new word you don't know, underline it or circle it, and then get a notebook and write that word down and write down the definition in English. Don't write it down in your native language. Write it in English, okay? And then when you're finished with the book, you'll be able to look through the book and see all the words you learned because you circled them. And you'll be able to open a notebook and see all the words you learned. And when you learn words from a book, when you're reading a story, you'll remember them because you'll remember them in the story, right? As part of the story, right? So that's why reading is a really great way to build your vocabulary, and it's a good way to build your grammar because you can see how the grammar is used, right?
I have many books in English, really, but I start to reading and struggled and stopped.
Right.
And buy another one.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that either. I think that's, sometimes people are too crazy about the idea of everything has to be completed. So, for example, Kalsum, I have ADHD, okay, which means I don't focus well. I don't think you guys would recognize that now because I think I focus pretty well here. But it took a long time of me learning how to do that. And I had to learn that I don't do it the way everybody else does. So when I learned drumming, most people, they buy book 1 and go through book 1. Then they do book 2 and go through book 2. Then they do book 3. I didn't do that. I got all the books. And I put them in a big pile right next to my drums. And that way I could use my lack of focus. So I would read one and do one for as long as I could until I got bored. And then I would maybe practice or what we call jamming, which just means fooling around, just kind of doing anything you want for 5 or 10 minutes. Then I would pick up the next book and do the same thing. Then I would pick up the next book and do the same thing. And so my process was different than other people, but it didn't mean it was wrong, right? So there's nothing wrong with doing it the way you're doing it, but you do need to try to be realistic, right? So it's good that you have lots of English books. That's great, but try to figure out which ones maybe are in a level where that you can achieve, right? And if you like nonfiction, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also think it would be good to have some fiction books too, right? Fiction books, I think, are easier for remembering. Fiction is better for learning new words, for vocabulary, because when you learn fiction, when you learn words in fiction, there's a story and you're learning it with the story. When you learn words in nonfiction, there's no story, really. It's not a story. You're just learning information. That's a little different. And sometimes, at least for me, my brain, it's harder for me to hold on to that information. But if there's a story, my brain can hold on to that. It's creative, and so I'm able to remember better. Okay? So I like both. Yeah, I like both nonfiction and fiction, but just try to balance them and recognize which one is good for what, right? But choosing the right level is important.
Mark, sorry, what about if someone tell me, if you don't get the words, just don't stop it, don't quit it, don't translate it, just keep going, keep reading. If you don't understand, keep reading.
Yeah, so I think there is some value to that sometimes, okay? Because sometimes you'll read a word and you'll be like, I don't know what that means, and I don't understand the context, not yet. But then later, maybe there's another paragraph, and suddenly they use that word again in a different way, and now suddenly, oh, I get it now. Now I see what that word means. So yeah, sometimes it is good to just be like, well, I don't know what that is, but who cares? Just move on. That's what we call getting hung up in the weeds. Getting hung up in the weeds is an English idiom. It means that you're kind of, when you're walking nicely, but then if there's weeds, now your feet are getting stuck and you can't walk well, right? So when you get kind of stuck on something and you're focused too much on that, now you're not walking well because you're thinking too much about that thing. So don't get hung up in the weeds, All right?
Stop to reading, try to...
Right. That's right. There's no flow. Right. Yeah, there's no flow. It's not fun. That's why, like I said, it's so important to choose the right level, and it's important to choose something you're interested in. Right? So get a book you like. Don't get a book you don't like, I mean, do yourself a favor.
But the some words and sentences is really difficult. It's not my level. It's advanced. That's why, but I keep going. It's okay. Keep going. Study, read. Still I get it.
Well, that's good too. That's good too. I think that, like I said, I think there's some value in that, maybe you'll have to read it again and again and again, but each time you'll get some more each time, right? And you'll start to understand more. So, Kalsum, that reminds me of, there's a famous jazz musician. His name is Ornette Coleman. And he had a record that came out in the 1960s called The Shape of Jazz to Come. The Shape of Jazz to Come. And when that record came out, there were two records. There was that one and another one by John Coltrane called Giant Steps. And when those two records came out, many people didn't like them because they were challenging. It was very challenging to listen to. Like some music, you listen to it and you hear it and immediately you like it. But not all music is like that. Sometimes you have to listen to it a few times before you start to understand the value of it. And this is why, like those two records, I had to listen to them many, many times. And then eventually I started being like, wait a minute, I think I get it now. I think I understand why this is genius now. Like the first time I heard it, I didn't understand. The second time I heard it, I didn't understand. The third time I didn't understand. But eventually you start to see through the fog and you can see, oh, wow, this is a really awesome thing. Right. So sometimes, yeah, you just have to keep doing it until you get it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Banging your head against the wall is what we say. You're just banging. You got to keep banging your head against the wall until you get it. That's right.
In front of the teacher, because I have to do it like that while I mistake in grammar. I say something wrong completely. Teachers say, "Oh, it's completely wrong. Your grammar, writing." I write some things like paragraph. We had a homework, so it is have a lot of mistakes. Teachers say, "You are going to there and there and there." I don't know what I'm reading.
Well,
we are not focused on one thing and unity.
Right.
It's my problem. Mindstorm, something like that.
Yeah, but that's okay. Calcium.
Yeah.
One
so
thing.
I do it like that. Teachers say, "Oh, don't do that. It's okay."
you know, there's another quote. There's another quote from Einstein that I really like. He also said everybody is a genius. Einstein said everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, of course it's going to think it's stupid its whole life because you're asking it to do something it doesn't do. So what I'm telling you is one thing I learned is when people tell you you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're not right. Sometimes you're just doing it different. Not wrong. Just different, right? So, yeah, that's right. Look, Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. That's a famous song, right? Okay, so that's what you have to do. Do it your way. All right?
I'm going.
That's right. That's right. And Kalsum, I can tell you, your English is fine. Your English is good. Not just fine. It's good. So, just keep practicing. Keep practicing. And that's another thing that I don't like about some teachers, especially non-native teachers. One thing that non-native teachers of English, they don't understand is that you should not correct everything. When you correct everything, you beat them down. And now they feel like they're terrible. So like that, like you gave your teacher, and they said, no, this is terrible, it's wrong. No, I would always, whenever my students give me something, I always say, all right, this is good. This is a good start. You know, this is good. This part's good. This part's good. But we need to work here and here and here. So I always start with a positive message as much as I possibly can. Right. And then I'll say, well, let's see what we can do about here. And let's see if we can do something differently here. Right. But if you're just always correcting, then.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
No, she's not native. But
right.
She said, the center said she's international
right.
teacher.
Like I said, it's very common among non-native speakers who teach English. It's because they kind of have an ego about it because for them, English is really important to them. And because they're a non-native speaker, if they speak English well and they're teaching English, then they feel like that's like part of who they are. So when you tell them that their way is not good, they take it very personally, very, very personally. But like I said, one of the most important lessons you can learn as a teacher is that sometimes you have to not correct your students and allow them to make mistakes so that they can learn. If you're and then also know that if you correct every mistake, no student, no human being has the emotional capacity for that. So you're going to just beat them down every time you say, no, that's wrong. 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 Now that kid is literally that tall. You know, you've made him that tall. So, yeah.
in themselves.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, like, I remember, Kalsum, when I was teaching my first year teaching English in Taiwan, I was teaching kindergarten, and there was a little girl, and she was coloring. And she was coloring in a coloring book, and she was doing a dolphin, and she was painting her dolphin. She was coloring her dolphin purple. And the teacher came over and said, "No, that's wrong. Dolphins are blue, not purple." And I remember thinking, like, whoa, like, wait a minute. Like, it's a dolphin and she's 5. If she wants to make a purple dolphin, let her make a purple dolphin. Why are you telling her no that soon? She's 5. What are you doing to that child? You already beat her down and she's 5. So, yeah, you know.
Good for me, this note, really, because I apply for the next year. Because sometimes I did, but not exactly. Last year, because I used to be a teacher last year also. And the school also invited me to sign a contract for the next year, New Year. So actually I signed it. But sometimes I have some students struggled, and I repeated and I draw it and I show them. I was showing them a video and drawing on the board. I do all my best. Really, I did all my best, but still think about other things like that.
Yeah, well, Kalsum, yeah, being a teacher is hard because, yeah, no matter, even if you're the best teacher, there's always going to be a few students who, Kalsum, I like to think about it like students are like flowers. And some flowers bloom in the spring, some flowers bloom in the summer, and some flowers bloom in the fall. And you can't force it to bloom earlier. It has to bloom when it's going to bloom. So what I mean is sometimes I have one student who just doesn't seem to get it. They're not interested, and then they're not interested, and then they're not interested, and they're not interested. But one day, suddenly... They bloomed. They bloomed. Yeah, like magic suddenly. And that is true. That is how it happens. It is like magic sometimes. Sometimes you just have to wait until that kid is ready to be a learner. So, yeah, I've seen it happen too many times to count. The kid who I think is not the good kid becomes the good kid. You know, but you have to wait. You can't force it. You just have to wait. And you have to keep being positive, and you have to keep trying to encourage them, and that's hard. That's why being a teacher is hard, because you always have to be positive and encouraging, even when they're bored. You know, like, yeah. But, you know, again, being unique and creative is part of it, right? So, you know, being a drummer helps me, you know, because I can do things that keep their attention, and they know I have some unique part of me that makes me more interesting. Or cooking. I used to do cooking in my classes. You know, I would maybe once a month or something, we would do like a little cooking thing where I would teach them how to make French fries, or I would teach them how to make an American, Mexican nachos or American hamburger or something like that. Or, and that was fun, and it was a different break for them. And it was something interesting, you know? So I would use my talents and my creativity and my skills to try to keep them interested, you know?
But, it is really important for me, those notes, and apply for the next year. Don't put it and force them, and just encourage them and say the good things in them. Not maybe they will do something bad, but I just focus on what is good in them. They have.
And you know what? Sometimes I think you should tell the student too, like, you should maybe be very honest with them and just say, look, I know that you're not really into it right now. I know you're not really interested in this, but I'm going to keep trying to get you interested. You need to understand that that's my job. My job is to try to keep you interested and try to get you interested. So I'm going to keep trying. I just want you to understand that. And whenever you're ready, put it that way. Tell him or her, whenever you're ready to learn, I'll be here. They will be like, wait a minute, that's crazy. Nobody's ever made it my choice before. Nobody's ever said to me like, hey, when you're ready, then I'll be here. They always, because most kids, they don't know why they're in school. They don't know why they're learning. They're not really. Not really. If you ask them, they'll say, because my parents want me to be here or because I have to be here. But they don't really understand what value education really has. But if you can tell them, hey, look, I know you're not really into it right now, but I'm going to keep trying. And one day, if you are, I'll be here. So when you're ready, you let me know. And when you give them the choice, where you're telling them it's now your choice, when you are ready to learn, you come to me, suddenly that's a very different thing. Now they feel like it's their choice to learn.
I did that before. Sometimes while I went to the class and they are busy and they are talk, all of them make the crowd in the class. I just keep quiet and like that.
Yeah.
When you're ready, just tell me.
Well, sometimes that's good. Yeah. When my students, actually, Kausam, that was my technique all the time. If my students weren't behaving well, I don't get angry. I don't yell. I go to my desk and I sit there like this. And I'll just say, like you did, whenever you're ready. Yeah. And, for me, they were on camera the whole time. So I would just kind of be like, hey, this is being recorded, right? So like, but in Taiwan, in China, in Asia, many of the classrooms, most of them, they're recorded all the time. So, if that's one thing that's good, you can just say, hey, look, all I have to do is show your parents. And they'll then it's all over. If your parents find out that that's what you did, I don't have to say anything. I'll just show them the tape. But yeah, just remember what I said. Kids think school is punishment. If you can find a way to show them it's not punishment, but it's a choice that they can make, and give them the option that you're there to help, and whenever they want that help, that you are willing to give it to them. But you have to make sure they understand it that way. Once you do that, then a kid starts to feel like learning is for me, not because someone else is making me do it. It's not a punishment. It's an opportunity.
Really good, yeah. I just do it. I just did that. Sometimes I bring my phone with myself to the class, but just keep it silent and put it into the table. Mm-hmm. And I had a student. He was really active, super hyperactive, not just active, hyperactive, and just talk and stand up and just talk. Mm-hmm. Go to another students. Don't get a permission from me. Directly go to the bathroom. Still, I said he's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
He's hyperactive. And sometimes I use my phone and say, oh, I just took a video from you and sent to your mom.
Well, right. So, those situations are always tricky because I don't want to threaten my students that way, but sometimes you kind of have to. But for a student like that, Kausam, I've had students like that before. And here's what you should do. Put him in charge. Tell him, I want you to teach the class about this thing. You know, so what's that? Grade 1. Ah, well, okay. I was thinking more like teenager. Okay, if it's grade 1, then this is a little different. Grade 1, they're learning about proper behavior in the classroom. Grade 1 is the appropriate time to teach him that you can't just get up from your chair and go do what you want anytime. That when everybody's here, you have to be here. When everybody's there, you have to be there. So how can you do that? Find out what he likes to do and use that as both the carrot and the stick, right? So he likes... Stickers. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Right. That's what we use in Taiwan, too. We buy stickers, and stickers are the way we motivate our kids to do everything, right? So, yeah, that's right. Stickers are a good way. Yeah, that's one way to do it. You know, but like I said, sometimes you do have to say, all right, 10-minute timeout, you know, and they go sit in the corner, or they go sit outside in the hallway, or they have to go to, you know, the principal's office for 10 minutes or something like that. There are times when you do have to remove a kid and make sure they understand the lesson that in first grade, you're learning about manners. You're learning about behavior in a room of people. You don't know because you're 5, right? So that's what you have to teach them, that no, you can't just run around and do anything you want. No, look at everybody else. What are they doing?
Yeah.
You know?
The students did that, or not? Or others no. Just listen to me. They are just listening to me and quiet. They are so polite. Just some students inside of them. Hyperactive.
Well,
I can't control them.
Right, and I know, and it's hard, but I want to just remind you, I was that kid.
Oh.
Yeah. I was that kid. I was the hyperactive kid. I was the kid who asked too many questions and was a little bit difficult and couldn't finish his homework assignments and things like that. So, often, or at least sometimes, the kid that you think is a difficult kid is really just a misunderstood kid. And I didn't know how to learn in school the way everybody else did. So I didn't become a good student until after school. Once I left school, then I started teaching myself how to learn. And then I learned all my problems and figured out why I was having problems in the first place when I was in school. And now I understand how to learn. But at the time when I was in school, I didn't know how to learn. So it wasn't really my fault. You know, I just didn't know how. And school is not designed to find... School is designed to teach as many people as possible the same way. That's what school is designed to do. But that means that the kids like me don't get help. They're the ones who, they can't do it the way everybody else does. So I can learn, but not the way you did. So, you know, unfortunately, lots of kids, they just don't get the education they need. I didn't get the education I need until I gave it to myself when I was in my 20s.
Hyperactive students, so clever, smart, smarter than others, really. You know, before I explain it, I just say it once time and don't repeat it. Directly they get it.
Yeah, well... Like I said, some students are that way and some students are, but I just want to remind you that many times in my career, I've been teaching for almost 29 years, almost 30 years now. And many times I've seen the bad kid become the good kid. You know, whether that means bad behavior or bad student, or he doesn't seem to be very bright or very smart. I've seen it happen many, many times. So that's why I always try to remember that students are like flowers, and some bloom in the spring and some bloom in the fall. And you can't hate that kid because he's not blooming when you want him to. You know, you have to wait for him to bloom when he's ready.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I apply your suggestion, and it's really helpful for me to apply. Beside of English, it's really important for me. Your notes and something tell me, you just tell me to do it in the class, and let them what they want. And
yeah, so again, it's kind of a funny thing because I'm a good teacher because I was a bad student. You know, so that's how it works. You know, I learned what the bad kids feel. I learned what they feel like in class, right? So the kid who's smart, the kid who does everything easily, you don't need to help them. They don't need help. They're going to go to Harvard. They'll be fine, right? But the kid who is struggling, the kid who's not learning as well, you just need to remember that I would say about 10% of the time, it's because they can't do it. 90% of the time, it's because they're just trying to do it in a way that's not right for them. You know, like the fish trying to climb the tree. So, you know, or it's the case of you just have to wait for them to bloom, that they're just not ready to be mature yet about their education.
I had a student just once. I can't help, really. I don't know. I did my best, sorry. I think he had a mental something like that, because while he looked at me, her mind go to another thing. I said, this is cat. He said, this is another thing.
Right. So that, you know, again, Kalsum, when you're a teacher, you're going to find kids that have all kinds of problems. So I have had kids with ADHD, and I've had kids who had autism, and I've had kids who were deaf and blind, and I've had kids who, you know, I've had all kinds of disorders. Autism is a more common one. It sounds like what you were talking about. Yes?
How you teach them? It's really hard.
Right. Well, there are some times when no, you can't teach them, and you shouldn't. They need help. They need specific help. So also, when I was in Taiwan, there was a kid who had pretty severe autism. He was not able to speak normally the way most kids at that age can speak. And he would always look, you know, if you're looking at him, he's looking over here. You know, that's a very sure sign when they're not able to hold your eye attention. That's when, you know, there's a good possibility there's something wrong there. But like I said, there are some kids. Autism is what we call a spectrum, which means that there are some kids who are on the far side and it's really difficult. And then there are some kids who I might be a little bit autistic myself. I'm not sure, because it's so on the spectrum. It means that maybe you are so mildly autistic that you don't have any problems, so you can't really tell, right? But autism is something that we don't really understand quite well yet. And it's not necessarily about your brain doesn't work correctly. It might just be that your brain works differently, because sometimes people with autism have incredible skills, mental skills. Sometimes they have amazing mental abilities. You know, like there are some kids with autism who they collect baseball cards, and they can tell you they can memorize every statistic that every baseball player has ever had. So that's how we figured out autism is a special thing. Was over the years, we found that some of these children that had great difficulty doing normal things, they also had a special ability to do something in a way that most people can't. So in the 1980s, there was a movie called Rain Man. It was a Tom Cruise movie, one of his first famous Tom Cruise movies. And it was a movie about a guy who he finds out he has a brother that he didn't know about. He finds out he has a brother, and his brother has a really strong mental disorder, kind of like autism. And he's almost non-functional. So this guy finds out he has an older brother who is living in care and has been being taken care of for his whole life because he can't take care of himself, right? But there's one scene in the movie where the guy drops a box of toothpicks, and this guy, Raymond, he looks at the box of toothpicks on the ground and they're all falling out, and he counted them like that. Just by looking at them, he could give you the exact number of how many there were. And there's so many examples of that kind of thing in autistic people. And so that's why we now know that autism is not necessarily just a disorder. It's a difference. It's a difference. And so, yeah, sometimes those people have a very unique way of looking at things and a special ability because of their unique perspective.
Mm-hmm. I want to watch this kinds of movie. Maybe it helped me to more understand the students or something around me, maybe.
Yeah, there's another great movie that you should watch then called Mr. Holland's...
Could you write?
Mr. Holland's Opus. So Rain Man is a good one, but Mr. Holland's Opus is another good movie. Mr. Holland's Opus is a movie about a teacher. This movie, it's about a high school music teacher. He's a high school music teacher, and he... So actually, he's a professional musician. He's a really, really talented musician, but he decides to become a music teacher because he wants to spend more time with his family, right? And he wants to work on composing his own symphony, right? And so this is a movie all about this guy with his career and, being a teacher in school, and the difficulties with different students and stuff. So that's another good one. It's an inspiring teaching movie. For any teacher, that's a good movie.
Really, I really like it. And I searched it on Netflix, right teachers or something.
Yeah.
Just search.
Well, then let me give you a couple more. Another one is Dead Poet Society. Dead Poet Society. Dead Poet Society. Whoops! I should have capitalized the S. But Dead Poet Society is a movie with Robin Williams. Robin Williams, the actor, and that one is again about inspiring students to become better. And then what was the other one that I wanted to tell you about?
I can't catch them on Netflix?
Maybe. I'm not sure if they're all on Netflix or not. I'm not sure if those are all on Netflix. But yeah, do a search. Then there's one more. What was that called? Yeah, okay, yeah. So here, there's a movie called... No, not that one.
It's okay if it's a series or TV show or something, if you know.
Oh, well, yeah, this is it. There's a movie called Temple Grandin.
Temple? How pronounce it?
Temple Grandin. It was made in 2010. And it's a movie about a woman who has autism, but she becomes one of the top scientists in the animal industry, like livestock industry, like handling animals. So it's a movie all about how she became the best at what she does because of her autism. Yes, and that's a real story. Yeah, that's a real story.
It's really good.
There are some other ones here too. I just found this link here. I can give this to you here.
Yeah. It's really if I watch it,
There
I
are
learn.
there's 36 movies there that they give you that have something to do with autism or something like that. So that's another good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kausam, I'm going to have to let you go because I want to see if I can talk to at least one more person before I go have lunch. But thank you for coming on my stage, and you had a lot of really great questions. So thank you very much for that.
I appreciate it, and I got a lot of information from you. Thank you.
You're very
It's
welcome.
really big.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care. I'll
Thank
see you next time. Bye-bye.
Nice day. Bye.
Okay, that was a long talk, but she asked so many good questions that I thought it was really, really valuable for you. Hello Talk user 77359 says, I'm lazy. I didn't change my Hello Talk name because I'm lazy. But if you are lazy, then you will not do well. So don't be lazy, okay? And 我觉得有时候我觉得我说一天太快了，可是我觉得如果你试试看，每天你可以看我，每天听我，加油，熟能生巧 ，OK， 你可以。好不好？ All right. Did I miss any other comments? Pluviophile says they might be more intelligent than us. Yeah, they might be. Yeah, I mean, it's, intelligence is something that we still don't understand. So IQ tests don't really mean anything to me because I know some people with a high IQ who are pretty dumb. All right. Well, let me see. I think if there's anyone else who would like to come up and talk with me for just a few more minutes, let's see. How about Carolina? Can you just wait a minute? Let me get one more person from China here. How about Aaron? Aaron or J2? Oh, Aaron's too shy. How about J2? You want to come up? J2? 太害羞吗? All right. How about Laura? Laura got the courage to raise her hand. I'll talk to Laura for a minute. Hello, Laura.
Hello.
You did it.
Hello?
You raised your hand.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Congratulations.
Oh, okay.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty good today. What can I do for you? Anything?
Well, I was listening to your earlier conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and I was thinking about some moments from my career as a teacher, and I wanted to ask you, when you were in your first years of teaching, were there things that you did that were wrong or you didn't know how to do things, and what were they, and how do you consider them now? Like, how do you think about them now? Because, for example, I remember that when I started teaching, and that like 2 years ago, and I had a test with a student, and I didn't know, like, I didn't give him the exact questions, like clear instructions, like how to do an exercise, and he didn't know what to do. Like, I forgot, like, I didn't pay attention to the task, and he kind of had to figure it out what I wanted from him to do. And then I realized, okay, that's just one dumb mistake.
Right.
Like you cannot.
Right, exactly. Laura, we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes, okay? And being a teacher means being brave enough to try to help someone else, right? But being brave enough to try doesn't mean that you are always successful or that you're always good at it, right? So, yeah, there were times when I was younger and I was teaching things. I can look back now and I can say, like, I can remember in the first few years when I was teaching drums that I would tell my students that I didn't think they really needed to learn how to read music. And that was terrible advice. It was really terrible advice. But do you know how I learned that was terrible advice? Because my own music reading wasn't very good when I started teaching. But by teaching, I became better. And by teaching, I learned how important it is. And then I started to understand the value to teach to my students, how important it is, right? So sure, there are some students running, some people, they're full-grown adults now, I'm sure, but there are some people running around in this world who probably got some bad information from me. But guess what?
Yes.
The world did not end. Okay? So, and I can also remember when I was younger, I took lessons from a few teachers, and they taught me things that I learned later were wrong, or I learned from somebody else was maybe not the best way, right? So what? Learning is a journey, and sometimes you're going to take a right turn, and sometimes you're going to take a left turn, but very, very rarely is it a straight path. Okay? So don't worry too much if you kind of take some turns. That's all right. That's just learning. Yeah, and Laura, the way I see it is, that's called, in English, we call that the scenic route. The scenic route. What that means is I could drive directly to my grandma's house, but no, I'm going to drive down this road and see that pretty field over there, and I'm going to drive down this road over here and see that pretty river over there, and I'm going to drive down this road, and I thought there was something pretty down here, but no, it's really ugly down there. I'm not going straight to grandma's house. I'm taking the scenic route. Mm-hmm. Okay? But you're learning a lot when you do that. Okay? So you have to, all of you guys need to remember that in learning, the straight path is not always the best path. The straight path is the fastest path, but that doesn't mean it's the best one.
I just feel bad when I make mistakes. It's like something is wrong with me.
No, nothing is wrong with you. You're human. So unless you're not human, you will make mistakes. Okay? And Laura, I can also tell you that one of the best lessons that you can teach anyone in life is that everyone makes mistakes, and that it's a really important lesson to show children that adults can admit when they're wrong. Because there's nothing more childish or immature than an adult that can't admit when something is clearly wrong. That's as immature and childish as can be. If you're an adult and you're saying 2 + 2 is 5, 2 + 2 is not 5. So you need to learn how to grow up and admit that you were wrong. Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. 2 + 2 is 4. And now that kid says, wait, wow, look at that. They're humble enough to admit they were wrong and try to figure it out. That's a good lesson. But if you don't admit you're wrong, no, 2 + 2 is 5. You just look stupid and immature. So it's okay to do something wrong, but it's even more okay if you admit it. And then now it becomes, that's the lesson they learn. So you were trying to teach them about math, but now you can also teach them just that learning is about doing your best, but you don't always know. But you can always keep trying to figure it out. So if you admit you are wrong, you admit that you're still trying to figure it out. If you always have the answers, never trust that person. Never trust the person who's always got the answers.
Over time, it became easier for me not to worry that much.
Yeah.
I kind of like took that pressure off me, but sometimes it just comes back because I remember, like, these kids are so, you're so responsible for them and for what they learn and for how they behave, and they
Yes.
learn things.
You are. But remember, Laura, teachers are not gods. Teachers are guides. We're just here to guide people. That's it. Okay? And so you don't have to have all the answers, and you don't always have to be right. You do have to always want to find the answers, and you do always have to want to find the right answers. But you don't always have to have them. Okay? So don't worry. Relax. No one is going to die if you teach the wrong thing. They might learn something wrong for a little bit, but they'll eventually figure it out. And actually, Laura, sometimes I can remember there were some things that maybe one teacher, he taught me how to do something with drums, and the next teacher would teach me that was wrong. And it was good that I learned it wrong, because now I really understand why it's wrong. Like, do you understand? You know, if you just tell them, it's one thing, but if they actually learn from experience, that's another thing. They can grow more from that.
Life is like the best educator that you can have sometimes.
Well, it is if you pay attention to your mistakes and you try to learn from them. But that's the thing. Many people, when they make mistakes, they're so embarrassed about their mistakes that they never learn from them. So that's why I want you to stop being afraid of your mistakes. I want you to love your mistakes like children. They're your family, okay? And they're there to help you and help you grow and help you learn. So you're afraid of mistakes, and they will make you... If you're afraid of mistakes, then you won't learn well. But if you can be friendly with your mistakes and you can understand that mistakes are a part of learning, and it's an unavoidable part of learning. So no one learns without mistakes. No one learns without mistakes. And I know you think that learning with the fewest number of mistakes, that must mean that you're the best. But no, it doesn't. Learning is science, and science is about experiments. So if learning is about anything, it's about doing more experiments. Do more experiments. The more experiments you do, the more you will learn. But that doesn't mean they're all successful. Most experiments fail. Most experiments fail, everybody. So most of the time when you practice, it won't be good, but that's okay. That's how you're learning. That's why I always like to tell people, Laura, if you see a professional musician, if you watch them practice, like real practice, it will not sound good. Because if they're trying to practice, then they're trying to challenge themselves. If they're trying to challenge themselves, they are going to make mistakes. So, real musicians, when we practice, it doesn't sound great because we're trying to actually push ourselves further. So if you're practicing and it always sounds good, you're not pushing yourself. You're not really learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay? So be happy to make mistakes. It means you're making progress. Okay?
I just wish that things were easier, and that I just wish I didn't want to quit every time things get bad.
Well, Laura, even I feel that way sometimes. Really. Okay?
Yeah.
But being a teacher is like a calling, you know, like we want to help people. And yeah, Laura, here's one thing I will tell you about teaching. It matters where you teach, right? So I have taught privately one-on-one, and I've taught in kindergartens and elementary schools and high schools, and I've taught kind of private college group classes, and I've taught adult education classes with groups of adults. So all of those give me new experiences, you know, and all of them help me figure out where I really want to teach and where I really don't want to teach, right? So right now, Laura, if I wanted to get a job teaching in my city, I probably could get one pretty easily because they're desperate for teachers. They're really, really desperate for teachers in America. It's sad. But the reason they're desperate for teachers is because it's such a terrible job here. You know, it's a very difficult job. The students are difficult. The rules, there's so many rules that they make it impossible to really teach. So now I've learned that I don't want that job. Even if that job is paying well and it does well, I don't want that stress. I don't want that kind of job, you know, but you might have to do it for a while until you find the thing that's better for you. Okay? Yeah. So that's why I was talking earlier about building your portfolio, okay? Building your CV, your resume. You need to build your portfolio. The more you build your portfolio, the more leverage you have at what job you take. So now when I do interviews for jobs, it's more like I'm interviewing them. They're not interviewing me. It's more like, yeah, I'm saying, wait a minute, you want me, but do I want you? That's the question, right? You know, and so the question becomes, I get it. You want me to work for your school, but why should I work for your school? How are you going to make it good for me? But yeah, you're right. Most of the time it doesn't happen that way. Most of the time it's them saying, what are you going to do for us? You know, like, but remember that and build your portfolio. Mm-hmm. And eventually you'll have enough leverage to start to feel like you can say, no, I don't want to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. Right. You choose what you want to do and you go do that. Right. I'm not saying you get to do that in the beginning. In the beginning, you have to do whatever you can do. You have to get experience. You know, you have to build your leverage.
And your brand, you have to build your brand, like your
own right.
Personal brand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't really like to think about it so much like branding. I like to think about it more like value. Don't think about it more like branding. Think about it like value. Wherever you are going to work, I don't care what job it is, figure out how you can make yourself uniquely valuable to that job or to that company. That's how you'll make sure you don't get fired. So that's why I like to remember, there's a quote from, who is that from? Rod Serling. Rod Serling said, being like everybody is the same as being nobody. And that's an important thing to remember. If you're just like everybody else, you have no value. You're replaceable, right? So make yourself unique, make yourself special, make yourself valuable wherever you go to work.
Okay, thank you.
Got it? Laura, yeah. I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for coming up and talking with me. It was a pleasure. It's funny how I think I spent half my time talking to teachers today. Again, I feel like I need to do a special stream just for teachers. But that'll be fun. I think I will do that sometime. So thanks again, Laura, and make sure you do me a favor and share. All right?
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks again, Laura. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah. I guess I do need to do that. Okay. So maybe later tonight or tomorrow, I'll see if I can create a new live stream just for teachers. maybe. Teacher's lounge. Yeah, that's right. That's perfect. The teacher's lounge. I love that. That's perfect. Yeah, that's a good idea. Teaching is hard. Teaching is hard. And again, I feel like I have a unique view on it because I feel like I was a bad student. And because I was a bad student, I had to figure out what was wrong with me and what was wrong with learning and my process of learning or the school's process of learning. That's how I began to understand how to teach better when you understand how to learn better. Thank you, Sanaz. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So it's about 1 o'clock, everybody, and it's about time for me to go get some lunch. Brooke Tessema. Brooke, you're new here. I know that. But watch me, okay? If you are watching my live streams, you must turn your phone sideways. If you turn your phone sideways, you will see all of me. All of me. Just take all of me. Can't you see? I'm nothing without you. All right. Okay, everybody. So I need to go. I'm going to go have some lunch, but please make sure you hit the follow button and share. And yeah, I have about 48,000 followers, but I really want to hit 50,000 in the next few weeks. So please do me a favor and help me out and tell some more people about it, okay? And have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening wherever you are. Come back and see me tomorrow. I will be here tomorrow again, okay? So come back and see me then. And don't forget to be a language warrior. You're not allowed to be shy if you want to learn a language. Okay? All right, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.